Tonight, Tiff brings out some Hollywood heavyweights for day number 5.
Canada, I'm very happy to see everybody out there.
We had this great cast. I mean, it was just a joyful experience making it.
We'll give you a full wrap of the big names in town for the day's big premieres. Plus,
was actually a little shocked that they didn't answer right away.
Put on hold while a man bleeds. Why some people are getting an automated message instead of a live person when they call 911. And Mississauga gears up for a historic homecoming for its golden girl. What Bianca Andreescu can expect when she's back on home soil. Good evening, I'm Mike Wise. Day 5 of TIFF definitely brought the star power. We're talking Streep, Damon, Bale, Sandler. But first, Joaquin Phoenix. Deanna Sumanick-Johnson starts us off on the red carpet premiere of Joker.
It has become the hallmark of great actors to put their own personal spin on the Joker, from Jack Nicholson to the late Heath Ledger, and now Joaquin Phoenix is playing what some people are calling the most disturbing version of Joker yet.
To bring laughter and joy to the world.
Is it just me? Or is it getting crazier out there?
This film, which just won the Golden Lion at the Venice Film Festival, has been called brilliant and visionary, but also dangerous and irresponsible. Some people have said that this backstory, the origin story of the Joker, actually provides a little bit of an excuse or an explanation, even sympathy for violent young men who feel rejected by society. Joaquin Phoenix did not talk to anybody on the red carpet, but here's what director Todd Phillips had to say.
Our vision was as a guy who ultimately has to become the Joker. So there's going to be a little bit of anger and rebellion in him. Do you know what I'm saying?
Now, to show you just how much buzz this film has, you should see who showed up to just see it, just check it out at this Toronto International Film Festival premiere. Edward Norton, Bradley Cooper just casually strolled on by to see their buddy Joaquin Phoenix's film. And that shows you there's probably some strong awards buzz going as we head into the award season for a film that is definitely polarizing, but like the character it portrays, it will not be ignored. Deanna Sumanick-Johnson, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, next we take you to the red carpet premiere of Ford versus Ferrari. This one's starring Matt Damon and Christian Bale. The biographical drama pits an underdog team of American automotive engineers against Ferrari in the 1966 24 Hours of Le Mans endurance race.
What kind of man in the 1960s would go along the Mulsanne Straight in Le Mans at 230 miles an hour, truly not knowing if the brakes were going to work at the end of it? You know, very highly likely that they were going to die during this, but they did it regardless. You know, that is a fascinating man and someone well worth making a movie about.
Well, from racing cars to international intrigue, Meryl Streep walking the red carpet tonight for The Laundromat. That is the story behind the Panama Paper documents leak and the exposure of offshore tax havens. We caught up with her co-star Antonio Banderas for what he hopes viewers can take away from the film.
What we have to understand inside this very complicated artifact is that there are many different levels. There are companies there that actually were criminal people, performing in the universe of drugs, selling weapons, even probably terrorism. There is a number of people like that. But there is another level of people that they didn't even know.
Finally, this is a look at the premiere for Uncut Gems, starring Idina Menzel, Judd Hirsch there, and Adam Sandler. It's all about a jeweler on the lookout for the next score in New York City. Now, we spoke to Sandler, not just about the movie, but turns out he's a fan of Bianca Andreescu.
She was so cool. I loved watching how happy and that she ran to her parents and her coach, and I was happy for her. She handled it all so cool, man.
I know.
Oh, please.
Now, all the action continues tomorrow. We'll be on the red carpet for the premiere of Judy, starring Renee Zellweger, and Motherless Brooklyn, starring Edward Norton. Also tomorrow, we're going to be watching a hearing at the Ontario Labour Relations Board that could have a big effect on workers in the so-called gig economy. For months now, there's been an effort to set up a union amongst couriers with Foodora, the food delivery service, an effort the company is trying to fight. Angelina King joins us now live outside the Ontario Labour Relations Board on University Avenue. So, Angela, there's a lot at stake at tomorrow's hearing.
There certainly is. And what's interesting is that couriers have already voted on whether to form a union with CUPW, but those ballots can't even be counted until the Labour Relations Board here decides if they even had the right to vote in the first place, because Foodora is arguing that its workers are independent contractors, therefore they can't be unionized, but some couriers are saying the opposite. Ivan Ostos has been a Foodora courier for more than 3 years. He relies on it as his full-time income. So when he broke his arm on the job last year,
I was really depressed. You know, it's very isolating. And to know that, like, I was really only surviving because of my own savings.
He says he was off work for 4 months and got $210 per week through workers' comp. He calls working in the gig economy precarious. Sometimes there's not enough work to go around. Other times he's working but not getting paid until there's a delivery. Plus, he's worried about health and safety. Just a few reasons why he's confident in the push to unionize.
The days are numbered in terms of employers who take advantage of their workers in the gig economy.
In a statement, Foodora says, in part, there are many reasons why we don't believe Foodora riders need a union to effect change, including a potential impact on couriers' flexibility, detrimental union dues, and interference with the company's open door policy. CUPW argues the couriers shouldn't be seen as independent contractors because Foodora has the ability to hire, fire, discipline, and direct their workers. Labor experts say this is an important milestone.
Because, you know, win or lose, they are testing the waters for the definition of independent contractor right now. But again, it can't be stressed enough that even if they are unsuccessful, it doesn't necessarily mean the end of a drive to organize gig economy workers. It might just take further legislative reforms and/or court challenges. So this could end up in 2 ways ultimately. One, the board decides that the workers have the right to unionize, they win the certification vote, and then bargaining can begin. Or it's decided that they aren't eligible and then that ballot box is never even opened. But there's still so many different things that could come into play, and so labor experts say that this case could end up taking months or even years. Mike?
And we'll watch it as it starts and gets underway tomorrow. Thanks, Angelina. Colette Kennedy's here with your first look at the forecast. Colette, I know the calendar says it's still summer. It hasn't been feeling like summer lately.
Yeah, it sure hasn't. The last 2 nights, we've had that temperature drop down to single digits. It had been almost 100 days, 94, since back in early June when we had readings like that, less than 10 degrees. So yeah, a little cooler air moved in, and guess what? We're going to turn this train around and go in the other direction. So we're actually going to see things getting a little bit warmer, not just with our overnights, but really you'll notice it with the daytime highs. A return of something very summer-like, which would be some thunder and lightning, the risk of some thunderstorms mixed in there. And then, of course, it's September, so the cool air is going to come back in as we head towards Thursday. So just having a look at how these things are going to play out for you over the next little while. We'll just take it in the short term for now. Into tomorrow morning, no issues through the GTA. Now, as the day builds, we'll find that risk of seeing some scattered showers and thunderstorms into cottage country beginning to build. We'll have the potential as well through the GTA, but it'll be a slimmer chance, and they'd be pretty isolated. Overnight, Tuesday into Wednesday, a greater chance in those overnight hours of seeing some wet conditions, and then we kind of go through the same pattern repeating into Wednesday. I'll go into that in more detail coming up, but tonight, 10 degrees. We'll just barely be in the double digits. Tomorrow, 24, that heat building, a little bit isolated shower possible in the afternoon, and the temperature getting much warmer Wednesday. I can't wait to share that with you, Mike.
I look forward to that. Thank you, Colette.
You're welcome.
Person was seriously injured tonight after a fire in a building in the Cabbagetown area. It happened just after 4:30 when crews arrived at an apartment building at Bleecker and Carlton Streets. Firefighters pulled the person from a 4th-floor unit. They had no vital signs and were given CPR, then rushed to hospital. Firefighters quickly put out the fire. There were no other injuries in the building. The Office of the Fire Marshal is now looking into the cause. Well, imagine having an emergency, calling 911 for help, only to be put on hold. Well, that's what happened to a Toronto woman who's wondering what's going on with the emergency service after she called for help while assisting her injured neighbor, only to get a message asking her to please hold. since operators were busy. Shannon Martin has her story.
This is the aftermath. Last Thursday night, Matthew Markison pushed his arm through the glass-plated front door of his apartment building.
Paramedics said it was the most blood they've seen.
He was lucky his neighbor, Michelle Beer, happened to be home.
So I was sitting in my apartment and I just heard the shattering of the glass and then immediately a cry for help.
Beer, who once worked as a corporal for St. John Ambulance, raced to make a tourniquet out of his T-shirt and dialed 911.
I was actually a little shocked that they didn't answer right away. I was expecting a 911, what's your emergency? Right. And I got, you've reached 911, emergency services, all of our operators are busy, please hold the line. And I was like, what? I'm like holding this, this man's arm and keeping him from bleeding.
It felt like forever, she says, before being connected with an operator. To keep up with an increasing demand for 911, the Toronto Police Services Board approved hiring more operators last year. The mayor says 53 new staff are on the job and in training.
Sometimes people are put on hold, for example, because the operator is getting help from somebody else. It is a work in progress, a day-by-day thing in the sense you can always do better. And I think we've taken the steps to provide the resources to make sure they have the people necessary to answer the phone.
The whole thing leaves you with some questions, though.
Leaves me with some questions. I'm glad it was me. I'm glad it was me in that situation that helped. Had I been the one injured and sitting on the floor and somebody who didn't know what to do.
Shannon Martin, CBC News, Toronto.
CBC News has learned the Ford government held talks with the local developer in order to build housing in the Greenbelt. Now, it's supposed to be a 7,000 square kilometer section of protected land around the GTA that Doug Ford promised not to touch. But as our Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley tells us, his government held talks for more than a year with a family that wanted to change those rules, a family with a history of giving money to the PC party.
It's one of the last intact forests on the northern edge of the GTA, currently protected as part of the Greenbelt.
It's like going through Algonquin Park.
Rob Kennedy leads the local Ratepayers Association. He's hiked across the property.
It's a beautiful piece of land, tall trees, and just it's stunning.
The property is located here in the northeastern part of Vaughan. CBC News has learned the Ford government held talks with the landowners about lifting its Greenbelt protection.
We will open up the Greenbelt, not all of it. We're going to open a big chunk of it up, and we're going to start building.
This video emerged just weeks before the election. Doug Ford quickly made a U-turn, promising his government would not touch the Greenbelt. But documents obtained by CBC News show that last fall, Municipal Affairs Minister Steve Clark ordered a provincial official to arrange talks with the landowners of the Vaughan property, even though the landowners made it clear they want to build housing on the land. This environmental activist says the government should never have started the talks.
They should have said, go away. It's a protected natural area within the Oak Ridges Moraine. Go away. Build your houses within the existing city.
In a statement, Clark said the talks with the developer went on for nearly a year, but no deal was reached, and the file is now closed.
It seems like a sham. It seems like a lie. If you end up touching this, you end up basically deceiving the public.
Kennedy is asking why the government negotiated with the developer, given Ford's promise not to touch the Greenbelt.
It's a domino effect. As soon as you allow these kind of sweetheart backdoor deals, then everybody else wants the same thing, and you're going to lose this permanently.
The developer who owns this land and wants to build housing on it has donated tens of thousands of dollars to the Progressive Conservative Party in recent years, including the maximum allowed to Doug Ford's leadership campaign. The landowners, members of the Milani family, did not respond to CBC's requests for comment. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Vaughan.
Well, it's a moment Canadians won't soon forget. Bianca Andreescu making history over the weekend with that victory over Serena Williams at the U.S. Open. It's made her a household name in Canada and now maybe around the world. What's next for the Mississauga team? Coming up. Well, we're finally learning what led to that massive fire at 650 Parliament Street last summer. The cause, apparently a catastrophic failure of the electrical system. Toronto Fire Chief Matthew Pegg says the Office of the Fire Marshal says that caused an explosion in the electrical room and smaller explosions and fires throughout the building. The fire in August of last year displaced 1,500 residents who still have not been allowed to return home. Well, no matter what your form of transportation is, you want to leave yourself some extra time if you're traveling through the Beach neighborhood. The busy intersection of Queen East, Eastern Avenue, and Kingston Road will be fully closed for the next 2 months.
It is pretty loud already. I mean, it's the first day. It's only just going to get louder, and it's been something I've been dreading all summer.
Transit's messed up. I don't like it. All the detours and the buses.
Well, this is all to allow crews to replace both the TTC tracks and the overhead infrastructure for streetcars. Sidewalk improvement work is also being done. The city says the construction will carry on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Well, Bianca Andreescu will make her triumphant return to Canada later this week, and already there are plans to hold a welcome rally for the 19-year-old at Celebration Square in her hometown of Mississauga. Millions in this country watched her win the U.S. Open on Saturday, and as Greg Ross tells us, the superstar treatment she's now getting south of the border could translate into some big endorsement dollars.
Our next guest.
The championship tour continued for Bianca Andreescu Monday in New York.
Bianca, good morning. Congratulations.
Hitting the U.S. talk show circuit this morning, appearing here on NBC's The Today Show, but sticking to her Canadian roots.
Bianca, it seemed as if you were almost apologizing after the win. Why?
That's such a Canadian thing to do.
How does that trophy feel in your hand?
Oh, I'm never going to get tired of holding this thing.
Back home, plans are already in the works for a hero's welcome.
I've already promised to give her the keys to the city.
The mayor of her hometown of Mississauga also expecting tens of thousands for a rally when she returns, similar to the crowds they had during the Raptors playoff run.
I think the right thing to do is to hold it in our Celebration Square.
But the win translates into much more than just accolades.
When you win a championship like this, brands come calling from
York University sports marketing instructor Vijay Settler says the win could mean millions of dollars in endorsements for Andreescu. And he says she has a marketable personality.
She exhibits all the characteristics and qualities that a lot of brands are interested in associating with. When you look at how she's conducted herself, whether it be in training, whether it be before the big match, after the match, after having won the U.S. Open and the news conferences, she's shown a lot of humility, she's shown a lot of determination, a lot of perseverance.
All of this is a lot for a 19-year-old to take in, but her coach, Sylvain Bruno, says she has a good team around her.
I think we have a good connection, so as a lot of other things we'll discuss, and I think her parents are super good too, and the rest of the team as well. So I think she's going to have a good buffer and people who are going to keep her grounded.
The Bianca excitement will likely only ramp up in the coming days as she's expected to return home to Canada later this week. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, get this, an incredible 3.4 million Canadians tuned into Saturday's Grand Slam match. That's a higher average than the 2019 Stanley Cup Finals. Here in Toronto, more than half of everyone watching TV on Saturday afternoon was watching Andreescu make history. Well, the battle is back, and now we know who'll be lacing up in this year's competition. We'll tell you what former Toronto professional hockey players are among those competing in this year's Battle of the Blades. That's coming up.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Well, Team Canada is officially out of the FIBA World Cup tournament. The team took on Germany today. Canada down by 3 at the break. Third quarter, Corey Joseph draws 2 defenders, kicks it to Kylie Wiltshire, who drains the 3. Game was tied at 56 heading into the fourth, but Germany would pull ahead, winning 82-76. Now, after dropping the first 2 games of the series, Canada knew it wouldn't secure an Olympic berth at this tournament, but the team will have another opportunity next June to qualify for the Tokyo Games. Colette Kennedy is back with her extended forecast, and I am looking forward to hearing about this warm-up you promised for Wednesday.
Yes, definitely have that coming up for you, Mike. And, you know, we'll even start to see the temperature coming up as we go into Tuesday. So it's going to be a gradual thing, but it really does spike midweek. By the way, average low at this time of year, just under 11 degrees. We've had a couple of nights, the last few nights, where the temperature cooler than that. In fact, at 6 a.m. this morning, we were at 9 degrees in Toronto, 8 Oshawa, 3 in Barrie, and Peterborough only 1 degree. Now by noon, that had turned around quite nicely into the mid-teens. That's right at the lunch hour. And then by 5 o'clock, generally these were the highs we saw. So upper teens other than southwestern Ontario, Chatham, Kent 21, and Windsor towards 20 degrees. I do want to just point out, okay, they're not here in the GTA or in southwestern Ontario yet, but seeing these frost advisories beginning to pop up and creeping a little bit closer. Last night they were getting a little bit closer. Those are the advisories for tonight. So we're getting towards that time of the year too. Now, as we go into Tuesday, we will see clouds increasing after a mostly clear night tonight. So becoming a mix of sun and cloud, we get into a situation where there may be some isolated showers showing up into the afternoon hours. That's enhanced a little bit into cottage country. And then overnight Tuesday into Wednesday morning, a greater chance that we'll see some wet weather, but it's still going to be a little bit spotty. Then into Wednesday, kind of the same thing again. We'll be sort of through the day, not too bad, mix of sun and cloud. And then Wednesday night into Thursday, particularly for southwestern Ontario, you're going to be seeing some wet conditions coming back into your skies there. Overnight tonight, there you go, lows pretty mild for southwestern Ontario, 14 to 15 degrees. Tomorrow's going to be interesting. Warm front nosing in. As it does, it should be pushing in that hotter air for Windsor 31, Leamington 31. Not quite making it all the way to Sarnia towards London. That's why I'm going with more of those upper 20s for you guys, but it will be coming. It's going to be pushing all the way towards the GTA. Overnight tonight, though, there are your temperatures 9 to 12 degrees, and into tomorrow, the warmth beginning to build. Again, that hotter air not really arriving until Wednesday, so highs in the mid-20s with a few isolated showers possible. There's the heat I'm talking about, and it's not just the temperatures going up, it's the humidity. You'll begin to feel it Tuesday, really into Wednesday, so feeling like we're in the mid-30s. We still have a humidex to talk about. There won't be many days left where we'll be talking about that. Thursday, the cool down comes right behind this, so we'll see the temperature dropping nearly 10 degrees for the afternoon highs, and some wet conditions and still some thunderstorms in the forecast at risk all the way into Friday, Mike.
A short-lived warm-up, but I will take it. Thanks, Colette.
Yeah, I'm going to take it too. You're welcome.
Thanks, Colette. There's just over a week to go before CBC's Battle of the Blades returns, and today we got the complete lineup of who's competing. The reality series competition combines teams of hockey players and figure skaters competing for $100,000 to donate to a charity of their choice. Now, new names announced today: 18-year NHL veteran and former Toronto Maple Leaf Colton Orr, his Olympic gold and silver medalist for Team USA Amanda Kessel, along with Bruno Gervais and Bryant McGrattan, both with more than a dozen years in the NHL. Now, already announced former Toronto Fury forward Natalie Spooner and Sheldon Kennedy, and also announced today former player and former contestant PJ Stock is also returning. You can watch the first night of competition next Thursday right here on CBC. Looking forward to that premiere. Well, we also have the premiere of one of the CBC's most popular podcasts tomorrow. The new season of Uncover launches, hosted by Michelle Shepard, this one focusing on a 20-year cold case of Toronto teenager Sharmini Anandabal. You can get the full details about that on our website or CBC News app tomorrow morning. I'll see you here tomorrow night at 11. Good night.